6:25, I'll move to order. So thank you everybody for being here. I think before we start the meeting, I think we should do just a whip share of a quick introduction so that everybody knows everybody, because I'm not sure everybody knows all the faces around here. So maybe just introduce your name and tell us, just remind everybody why you're part of the Newport Recreation Committee or why you would like to be part of the Newport Recreation Committee. So my name is Jen Smith, I am the chair, and my interest in Newport Recreation comes from just providing recreation opportunities for the families around here and really with that playground project. So those are my two things.
My name is Maren. I've been part of the rec department for the committee for what, 8 or 10 years. So I just like volunteering, and yeah, that's about it.
Mike Nolan. I'm a Newport City resident. I have 4 young kids, and so I'm interested in healthy, active lifestyles in the community and kind of drive progress in recreation.
Deb Smith. I'm also a Newport City resident. I've been involved with the Newport Rec Department and the Newport Rec Committee for the last 20 years. I too like volunteering, but this is my daughter Laura and my oldest daughter. It was great to be part of planning some really fantastic events for the kids in this area.
I'm Laura. And I work for the rec department, so I'm the recreation coordinator. But I also, thanks to my mother, have been part of the rec committee since I was like 7. So it's been great.
I'm Amy Pickering. I'm a Newport City resident as well. I have 2 little kids, and I'm a school counselor at high school. And I was asked to share input on the splash pad when they were doing some news and press on it. And so, because I live within walking distance from Gardner Park particularly, I want to be involved in kind of the development and rebirth of the playground at Gardner Park. So it's my kids there.
Lori, I just recently moved to Newport. Have been earnings, working in the area all day. Seeing some of the events that you guys have put on, and I prefer to help be a part of that by volunteering.
And you guys just moved into town like last weekend or something? And you're swinging by trying to get the water hooked up here. Yeah.
Me?
Yes,
All right, cool.
yes, step right up.
My name's AJ. I'm somewhat of a transplant to the area, if you will. I've only been here for about 6 years now, and I kind of grew up in an area where recreation was huge, and it was very kind of a regional-based thing, kind of like this area is. So I'm trying to bring that sense of community through recreation here, kind of like where I grew up.
I'm Sherry Ryan, and I live in Derby actually, and I have an investment in the area because a lot of my kids have come through the events and been part of this community, and now I have 2 grandkids that are going to be coming through. I also am a therapist in the local community, so I have a lot of families that are in need of safe places to be and safe activities, and so I have an investment in kind of extending what I do for those families through the rec department.
I'm Jessica Booth, the director of the Parks and Recreation Department for the city. Laura and I are staff, so we're not officially members of the committee, but come to all the meetings and help support as you guys support us and we support you. It's a love relationship. So. We do, I think that was great to go around and do that. There is, sorry.
No, I thought she was continuing. My name is Ron Coloni, and I'm a resident of Derby Line, but I grew up here just right up the road actually. So I've been in the area for roughly 37 years as far as recreational use, and I have a sense of childhood memories here and things I feel like I'd like to give back to the community for what they did when we were children. I'd like to see it restored and keep going on, just like what AJ said, a sense of community. And what Mike said, elaborate on that is keeping recreational going, bring positive family activities, and keep the area clean, giving everybody equal opportunity that we all had as we were kids, and continue that generation after generation. So hopefully, as a team and as a whole, as a community, we all continue on the same path and do it together.
in addition to all of us, I don't know if this is what you're gonna say, Jess, but in addition to all of us sitting at this table, there are a couple of faces that are missing right now. So we do have Jamie Pompois, who has her theater hat on tonight, and so she's not able to make it. And then we also have David Jankowski and Maggie, who are also members of this committee. And so they're absent at this point.
Yes, and David Jankowski and Maggie are our current alternates, sitting in the alternate seats, so, yes. It is a nine-member board that deals on vacancies. One of our members just recently resigned because she's chasing, I think, her master's degree up in Canada, so.
All right, so when we look at our agenda, next item on, and we're at agenda item number 3, we have to approve the minutes for the September 19th. There's a printed copy if anybody would like to look at a copy of the minutes from September 19th. They were emailed out. If you had a chance to review them then, that would have been great. But if not, take a minute to review them. I would like to add that under absent, we need to add Maggie's name.
I also suggest that the irony in the approving the minutes of the last one where we had to adjust Jamie's name, we should adjust it in all of these minutes as well.
Yep. As I'm looking
I
at
was
it, I'm
thinking,
like,
what
I
is this
spelled
spell
her
check?
name again, I spelled it wrong again.
Yeah.
What's Maggie's last name?
Brown.
Brown.
Any
Or
other?
is it on purpose for Jamie?
It's not even
J-A-I.
confusing with
Yeah. So if there are no other comments or things that we should adjust here, I will open it up for a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
Sherry motions to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? I have a second by Vaughn. All in favor say aye. Any nays? Any further discussion about last month's minutes? Moving on to agenda item number 4, comments by members of the public. Any comments? Okay.
I'm here to record, I can't say a word.
So we'll move on then, since no members of the public are here, to agenda item number 5, monthly fundraising update. Thank you for printing this. Debbie, would you report out?
Beat me, that's right. So I'm gonna start right at the bottom, and look at the coin drop, and like $2,072.33 for a pretty easy fundraiser, if that's what you wanna call it, for making money. I mean, we had a great day. Sherry and I took the first round, and then Jen and Maren was in there, and I think we probably raised more money because Jen was there. She was pregnant and everybody was there for her.
Some of the coins.
Yeah, so a great success. We definitely want to get that letter out at the beginning of the year to get that spot again. I don't know if it had to do, Jess had given us a plastic bin full of brochures, and they were in bundles of 500, and I said, man, we'll be lucky if we hand out 500. At the end of our 2.5-hour shift, Sherry and I handed out close to 1,300 pamphlets. So call it fall foliage, you call it whatever you
Call it
want.
Eli's birthday party.
Yeah, you know, there was a Mustang show somewhere, a lot of Mustangs came.
There was
to us.
also a craft show up here at UCA happening that
Yes.
day. We had a number of people asking, like, what if there's a thing on School Street, you know what's down there? So I think that also helped traffic on Main Street.
Well, and with the things we handed out, I probably had 20 people that didn't even take those,
Yeah.
and a bunch of people that went through twice on both sides.
Yeah.
And we only gave it to him once, and Mac said Triptia gave his back. He gave it back the second time through, but
Yeah.
we
So,
had a
huge,
people.
huge success. Laura can tell you the breakdown in bills was what? You had it,
About 1,200 in bills, and I spent about an hour at the Cuba National Bank and had about $848 in coins.
That bucket was heavy.
That was heavy.
I know because I did lift it.
And, yeah.
okay, I mean, that is gonna be a recommendation that Sherry and I were talking about, okay, how do we prevent one person or two people having to lift that coin?
bucket of coins, and I think we should have a couple of buckets and rotate them in and out every new session that comes in.
So
They
we're kind of
take
going
the-
into the debrief, but that's okay.
Okay.
I think it's okay.
You know, to swap that 5-gallon bucket out every time we have two new people coming in. One, you don't have all of that money sitting there in the middle of Main Street, and it won't get really heavy.
And that's why I enlisted my husband to come down and do that heavy lifting for us.
Yeah.
So
Well,
he did come down, but he had said the same thing, why don't you have a couple buckets?
Yeah.
So,
One of the mistakes Debbie and I made, which we would not do again, is we put the cash in with the coins and then dug it all out. So I would keep that in the apron because we dug and dug and dug, because there was so much cash that we didn't want to leave it in there. 'Cause it-
I mean, I had like 20s and 10s.
I dug too at the end of the day. I was like,
Yeah, there was a lot of cash, and we're like, should we really leave this in here? And so we took it all out. That was not fun.
but I second Debbie's kind of like, wow, amazing for such a kind of simple fundraiser event to put together. Granted, it did take some pre-planning as far as putting out a letter at the beginning of the year to request it, but that's easy as long as we get it in on time, and to pull in over $2,000
Yeah,
for
that's
just
great.
a couple hours each for each person to be there.
And one of the things that Jamie stopped by yesterday, she knew she wasn't gonna be able to make it tonight. One of the things that she said about it was she was really surprised how many people she gave these little flyers to that had no idea that they
No
were doing
idea.
anything with the playground. So not only did you earn the playground some money, but the fact that you distributed this in the mass amounts that you
Yeah.
did really will bode well to help with the rest of your initiatives, so.
We also had a lot of people, once they realized what specifically we were fundraising for, they were like, here's the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was interesting too, because like you were saying, whether it be leaf peeping or whatever, like Maren and I, when we had our shift, were like, wow, I can't believe how many like out-of-staters are
Like
going
half
through
the people
and
are
still
out-of-staters.
stopping and
Yeah.
supporting the cause, even though they don't necessarily live in this area, they come up and access it.
Yeah. It got a little scary a few times because the boats were coming out of the harbor. And it's a very narrow road with
Yeah.
cars on both sides, so that was a little hairy. I had to move the cones a few times to let them go through.
Yeah.
The other thing is I had an interesting interaction with the guy who owns Arctic
Air.
Carter.
Oh, Jamie. No.
John.
John stopped and gave us money, but gave me a really hard time about we didn't do enough searching because it's going to be too much to, it's going to be really hard to maintain. So I assured him that we had done a lot of research, and he still donated.
Oh, the playground and
Yes, the
maintenance.
water,
The splash pad.
splash pad, and he
Yeah.
just was very worried about how that was going to be maintained because he does. That's what he does. It's coolant and that kind of stuff. So he was a little bit worried about that, but he did donate.
So that's actually a pretty frequent question that we get, and that was one of the very first questions that I had when we were even contemplating even bringing this to the department head. At the very, very beginning, I called Santa's Village, which is where I watched my 4-year-old play, and said, what's the maintenance routine? And you know, what he said to me was, we're not the only splash pad in the entire northern hemisphere that is susceptible to the freezing cold weather. And I said, touche. There's a couple different companies, a few of which are out of Canada, that obviously are even more northern climate than we are. And he said that the splash pad is actually really simple. The one that they have at Santa's Village is just a pool filter system. And you blow the water out in the wintertime, and you have empty pipes, just like we do at Party Beach for all of the same thing we do for all of our other parks. So when people pose that question to you, you can let them know that, of course, that was one of the very first considerations we had about all of that stuff. As far as like replacing the playground, that's really the only new addition. The amount of maintenance that's going to come with the new playground is going to be so much less than what we're doing right now to maintain all of that old equipment and keep it safe. It's actually probably going to bode in our favor to have this new stuff around. But if you ever get that question again, that's a good way to let them know it's a pool filter system, it's a recirculation, blow out the pipes in the wintertime, and it's good to go.
Well, I didn't know what to say, but I just said that I just want to assure you that we have done our research.
Well,
That's a
in
good
hindsight,
answer.
we could have said, you know what, why don't you come to one of our meetings?
Yes, or call the rec department
And,
and
you know,
ask.
and give us your thoughts on that, and so.
Those are
I
all
did
very
bring that
valid
up.
questions.
Yeah. So, hydration station, we made $128.76. What did we sell the water for? $1? Did we do 50 cents
Well, I
or
think it
$1?
ended up being by
Oh, by
donation.
donation.
It ended up being by donation.
And the feed packet back that Nicole gave and Jamie were that a lot of people just thrown in 5s and stuff like that. So there was a pretty good turnout given the way the day turned out for Chili Fest. It was kind of rainy, but we didn't sell very much water, but we still made quite a bit of money. So we have water left over for next time, whatever we want to do next. But
Mike's bike path throwdown, and that is $125.
Yeah.
That's cool. And the bottle drive, so far 9812, you'll see that it's broken down by each redemption. I did let Laura know because I've been to Buzzy's a couple of times to donate our bottles, and I had to really search hard
There's no
for the
sign.
bottle
I
drive
didn't see a
sign.
sign.
But they had the most this one.
I'm just,
They had
they,
at least like 6 or 7 slips by
Yeah.
people. So
I mean,
don't
it
know.
was
I was gonna say,
way
I
to the
donated
left,
two
way to the
recently to
left,
them, and I didn't see
behind
the
the
sign.
counter, couldn't see it, was kind of like, why isn't it taped to your door,
maybe
It's-
we could suggest that next time we go around or
They're
whatever.
right next door neighbors, I'll take care of it.
There you go. Yeah. Stop that baby right on the
Yeah.
countertop.
Yeah,
Amy's
it's just
already
like,
on
I
it.
kept searching, when I, and where they count the bottles, where is that? And I knew she had dropped them off, but it wasn't very clear
Yeah.
that's what, so we might need to get more. So, that is the breakdown for September.
All in all, Debbie, it looks like we're a third of the way there.
Yeah, look at the pie chart, guys. It's growing. Yep, it is growing.
So with Jamie's absence, the next item on our agenda was the hydration station kind of program and event debrief. Jamie and Nicole were the two that were there, but is there anything for next time that we should think about doing differently?
I think just doing water was fine. I think parking the hydration station next to the fire department's chili booth would be a wise idea because it was set up in the gym because they took it off Main Street because of the rain. Set it up in the gym and the fire department was like the second booth in. So people were going to the fire department, skipping the 3 next chili booths to come down and get their water because it was so spicy. So I was like, oh, but all in all, aside from the commitment of having someone post it up there, it did pretty well. I think that if Chili Fest is back outside on a nice weather weekend like it was last year, would really be a good money maker. $27 isn't huge, but it was a good. We had little cards there and had an opportunity to mingle with the community and talk about the project, which is important. So I think worthwhile doing again for sure.
Alright, then we have program and event debrief. Next on our agenda is the bike path throwdown with Mr. Mike Nolan.
Yeah, so we were really happy with it from a club perspective, a running club perspective. So a little background, I went back and looked. We had 12 people the first year we did it. We had 7 people the second year we did it. And we were on the verge of saying, this is not worth anybody's time. And so I'm glad we thought of it and said, hey, why don't we just try this and link it up to the day and see how it works. We had 22 people show up that morning. We did a donation-based race fee, meaning you could donate if you wanted to. I'd say 80% of the people donated something, and it ranged from $5 to, there was a 50 in there. So the total donation was $250, of which we used half for the bike, for the club, and half we donated. So I think there's some real potential there. The feedback was really positive. People liked the fact that there was a race on the bike path and that it was run by people that knew how running races worked. And so definitely think we can build on that, either doing another race in the spring or at least having this next year associated with the fall event. So it was good turnout, good feedback on it overall. I think this is the third thing we're talking about in a row that is donation based. So I think there's a trend there that we should pay attention to, which is that I think people want to give money to this causes like this if you're asking in good faith as opposed to setting fees on things. I think you can get the same out of it that you would if I would have charged $10 per person. With 22 people, that would have been $220. So, plus I think it gives people flexibility that don't want to pay $10 to show up and run and still have a good time. So,
That's a great point.
I think the donation-based events, I think, are something we should pay a little bit more attention to in the future. But overall, it was great. I was happy to be able to we were concerned, like, what are we gonna have, like $70? We had no idea, but we actually had real money in the jar. So yeah, it's something we can build on next year and definitely grow it.
Well, thanks for a job.
And as far as the marketing of the event, do you think that marketing in a way where, like, do you think that any of that aspect helped? Like, it's a shared,
Yeah, I mean, so we were late, we were definitely late to the game on the marketing of it. We decided 3 weeks before the fall festival to give it a shot. And so we wanted to be very careful that we did not over market it because we had 5 people, 5 volunteers, and if 100 people show up, we could be in a lot of trouble. So we wanted to almost use it as a test case, put it on the city, the rec website, and then also market it a little bit on Facebook. And we can definitely get more aggressive with that. And I think being upfront about we're accepting race day donations, but it's not a requirement, it makes people, we had kids there that obviously aren't gonna donate, they're just gonna
Yeah, I
run,
think
so.
the word donations captures the fact that it's really up to you.
Yeah, and so I felt like that worked really well. Marketing wise, next year, we can take it a step further if we want to. There is a club right across the border in Quaticook that's huge, that we could market through to get some Canadians to come down that are right there. I think there's Craftsbury area has a lot of runners and bikers and stuff like that, Burke, which we did not try to tap into at all in this one because we were a little.
There's a very good chance that the left side path will be done.
Yeah, I mean, that's why that's really exciting to the runners, staying off the roads.
we kind of already debriefed on the coin drop. I don't know if we have to have any real further discussion about that unless anybody has anything else to add. Sounds like we're thinking about having more buckets with the shift change.
Are we still thinking about Derby?
I think it would be wise, I mean, Maren, you had looked into it and it was the same kind of timeline, right? You have to submit a letter in by January.
Yeah.
I think it would be wise to at least put the letter in and see if we get it. If we get it, if we don't, we don't. I don't know if Derby has the same kind of potential, but I think it's worth now knowing that their timeline is kind of the same as the city of Newport. Putting it out there and trying. I don't know if anybody disagrees with that, but
The coin drops in Derby typically bring in some pretty good money, especially right in front of that junior high.
Yeah.
And if we ran it at the same day, one up there and one down here.
Well, and I don't know if Derby works like the Newport one. I mean, the council kind of picked a date and said, here, you're doing it on this date. That way they had some control over it. And so I would imagine Derby's works something like that as well. So.
Well, but we could approach Derby if we knew, and see if we can try to do the same.
We want to be careful though, not only to spread ourselves thin, knowing that we have to have 2 people at the coin drops in 3 shifts throughout the day, but also what if somebody's traveling from Derby and they're down into Newport? They hit by 2 coin drops for the same cause, that might be a little.
But if they get hit twice in the summer for the same cause, it's the same thing.
Right, they might not be willing to give
but
twice
some
in
people
one
might
day.
think it's irritating. I was thinking that.
I know.
If you're in a hurry, that can be very irritating. You may not give just because you're mad,
And Jess, I want to just highlight the other point that you made was that, sometimes we do struggle with staffing our volunteers.
Yeah, that's true.
And so trying to then double staff it, with a coin drop like this, even if we had to pay staff, it would be worth it, but that cuts into some of our profit a little bit, so. And it would be ultimately up to Derby and the city, I think, to give us.
Has rec committee ever participated in, the 4th of July thing that they do in Derby for the parade? Like all of those vendors are there.
This past year, we did a balloon sales, and it was pretty profitable for, it's on here, the balloon sales, $440.
You guys gonna blow them up fast?
And that was
Blow
with,
them up fast enough, yeah, we could have done more.
and that was with balloons from a vendor that we wouldn't have normally bought from, so we probably could have got a better deal, with all of the different things kind of coming out, so.
That was really well received.
Okay, so if there's no more discussion around that, you then debrief, and we're going to do some event planning. And the first item is our New Year's dance.
That AJ really pushed for.
AJ, Jamie, and myself met a couple weeks ago, where the little event.
Did your wife like the idea?
loved it.
Awesome, that's good.
I know Jamie sent us an email, Jess, about
Those
some
numbers were all
DJ
over the place.
prices.
She did, and I think we should, we do have a subcommittee on this, so I think instead of getting into the
All those
nitty-gritty of that
details.
stuff, let the subcommittee handle that, but if you guys have any updates after your last meeting or some, thoughts, then that would be a good thing to share with the committee as a whole.
The biggest updates are that while running numbers, we still have to investigate a couple things. We're still looking at who will do things like our photography. We're fine tuning some of those details like that. We did talk about the idea of, while it's kind of that Roaring 20s theme, that maybe not requiring everybody dress like in a costume. So we did decide that we talked about having like a costume contest and costume award kind of thing, and we decided that if you want to dress up, you can dress up, and if not, fine, dress kind of formal wear is appropriate. Also, we are trying to organize a silent auction as part of the event, and so if there's anyone who's not on the subcommittee that thinks that they can get their hands on something that people would really want to bid on, some of the things that we're working on is like trying to get some like overnight stay somewhere or something that the couples attending would want to make a bid, decide kind of, they'd want to buy. So if anybody has any ideas or has interest in helping join that effort, we would definitely take that. Anything else, AJ, that you can think of?
Yeah, kind of backing up just a little bit too. I think the big question that we left with was the return on our investment, really. I mean, we kind of kicked around the spreadsheet a bit, different pricing, and it kind of raised some red flags for me, just seeing the money that we would have to ask for up front in order to not only cover the costs, but also to return the kind of investment that would make it worth our time. So, I mean, because I kind of understood where you were coming from at that point, the last meeting, that I didn't really get to begin with, that, $200 to $300, I don't know that it would be worth the time.
Yeah,
And I think, sorry, I cut you off again, Jeff. I think we have to think about that in twofold, right? So my perspective is always thinking about, well, the purpose of the rec committee is more than just raising the money for the playground. I mean, while we have this 2/3 of the pie left to achieve, we also have to think about our mission statement that we kind of put out there, which is providing recreation for the community. And would this meet both needs? A dance is a lot of work. There's a lot of front loading work. There's a lot of day before kind of setup work. There's the night out, then there's cleanup. And so it is a lot of work, but is the benefit not only the income that we make, but in providing recreation?
Right, that
Maybe
vibrancy.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so one of the, Jamie did stop by yesterday, and this was one of the things that we talked about. So given the fact that it sounded like you guys were kind of moving away from the theme of the Roaring 20s, which was really the purpose of having it on that New Year's, but I know that we talked about doing like an adult prom or something else a little bit later on. I want to be conscious that it's now the 17th of October and that there's still quite a bit more planning to do on that. If we're going to make this a big deal, I want the subcommittee, at least maybe at your next meeting, to really think about, are you feeling like you're at a point in planning where you should be, or is this going to create a lot of stress, especially around the holiday time? We could take what you've already done for research and move that into the adult prom or the springtime, dance type thing. If you're feeling like it might be a lot of stress, because just a reminder that Laura's gone to France, and I have 2 young kids around the holiday time, so the amount of support that you got from the rec department, like for the mother-son dances, won't be quite the same here. And I also do think that, the mother-son dances, we know now that we can do 3 dances and capitalize on that revenue with the same overhead costs, or relatively close overhead costs. When you do 1 dance alone, you certainly don't make as much as you would when you have a series of something. So, just some things to consider. I just want to caution the subcommittee and the recreation committee that generates a ton of work. Be very conscious of that, because there's nothing worse than getting close to that event and feeling stressed out about it. That's not what we're here for.
Well, I actually found that was common feedback too, like among photographers and just vendors in general, was, well, it is New Year's, so we're kind of going out of our way at this point, so that was kind of like, I guess it makes sense as well.
Yeah.
But
Well, and now you're making me wonder if there would be enough interest in the community to do, like if we were to decide to push back the new, like if we couldn't pull it off, or we felt like we just couldn't get everything in a row because it's New Year's, we can't get the people lined up that we need. Do we have
Or we can.
like a weekend event where we can capitalize on, like an adult prom where you have, because the Gateway only holds so many, maybe you could do 2 dances or something, and then you really see the profit and the worth.
Is this New Year's dance potentially competing with other organizations that do
Potentially,
New Year's Eve parties?
The
Like the
Yeah,
Elks,
the Elks.
like a huge party. So are you then like potentially struggling to share your attendees between multiple events?
I didn't think so, just because of how we were gonna market it, and because it being at the Gateway, there's only like a certain amount of people that can fit in there.
Capacity.
Yeah. So I think it could easily be done. I think there would be enough of, enough of an interest for it. I just don't know if the price point that we would need for it to be beneficial would make sense.
Well, and it wouldn't hurt to think about next year, once we've got another year of experience in event hosting under our belt, if we want to do a blowout of a higher end type thing, being able to schedule that for next year and have a little bit more time to gather that experience.
I got a couple things to add. I was thinking more of it after we had that initial meeting, and Mike and I agreed at the same time, is the cost gonna be worth it? It's a great idea, great theme, and the more I thought about it, I said to myself, well, this could be a great event. However, I did some research too, not on the negative side, but I did a lot of research in the area extensively, and most restaurants are so busy, catering businesses are busy, and during that time of year, they don't even want to even entertain it at that point. And also, like you just said, I think we're competing against too many things that all happen at one time. You got things for veterans, disabled, all these things, fundraisers. So I don't think New Year's is the date. However, I think something like February 1st or the 1st, somewhere give people a reason to go to. I think they'll spend a little extra money, stick with your theme, you have a great idea, have people dress up. And I did a little research, I was messing around on the internet. I think you can stick with that theme, make it look like what happened in the 20s, Prohibition. Okay, we can tie it in with Prohibition. Speak easy, speak easy considered, that goes in, you had to have a certain code to get into the dance.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we can come up with something here just in Newport. You're like, what happened in the 20s, that was something cool. So we'll just say steamboats, okay? If you don't say, on your invitation, we can send out invitations, code, special code is steamboat, or whatever it may be.
So I'm hearing Vaughn wants to join the subcommittee.
I'm not done yet. So I started looking at menus, we don't need to serve dinners, but we can do hors d'oeuvres, which we can do ourselves. I'm a cook by trade, so I can help out with that. But I looked at the appetizers, they're all feasible, there's nothing major there.
You mean from way back
Get
in
some
the
samples
20s?
at the next meeting?
I actually prepared a full list and I forgot to bring the damn list with me. But a lot of it is a lot easier. What I was thinking was, what's in the 20s? Obviously, we weren't born in the 20s, so none of us really would know. So I started doing research on it, and most of it is appetizers. One of the things that blew my mind that was on there was deviled eggs. Who the hell would thought deviled eggs was popular, but it was. And then platters of olives, cheese and crackers, stuffed mushrooms, all these things that we can do. And you can put that order out. Now you got to put a little bit of vintage cheese in there because they had certain things. But these things are feasible. We can put these together, put nice platters together. All we need is somebody that would cater to the liquor part of it, which I've already talked to Hillary at Pine Foster. They're willing to do it, but not New Year's. There's not a restaurant here that's going to take it on.
Yeah.
But we can serve the 20 drinks, and those are easy drinks to make too. You got nice little cups, you got the hors d'oeuvres inside them, this and that. So we could really bring this thing to light. And I even went further and looked at the dress codes back in there for the women and meals.
Subcommittee meet on.
We don't have our next day, but we will.
Your dream was festering on me. You were so excited about it. I said, well, let me see what's going on with
It's
it.
good energy.
But Wade, Mac, and I we weren't trying to demeanor your, bring it down. We were just saying, whoa, listen, you guys got a good idea, but there's a lot of money being spent here.
Yeah.
So I started thinking those things. How can we shave a little bit of money? And this is how we can do it. We can put the food together ourselves. We can put those invitations out with those codes, but we also, you say, there is a dress code, however, if you can't dress up, you can be a formal dress, like you said. But if you go on the site, I found the site, it's a vintage dress site, they got 20s, 30s, 40s all over, but it's affordable. You can buy the shoes, you can buy the different hats, this and that. I think it would bring the theme alive.
I think so.
And also, you gotta find a spot where you can hold a little bit more people. Gateway Center's nice, but you're limiting yourself to an X amount of money. They say, you know, try to find something that looks rustic, something, so I was thinking maybe we can get the barn or one of the creek barns, something like that. We can talk and say, would you be willing to donate this for the recreation park? That way we can house a little bit more. We always gotta find a place that's heated. I don't know if that other place is or not, but bring that historical piece in there. You gotta bring, so we might even be able to use the gym somehow, some way too. We gotta think, these are the things we gotta sit down and talk about. But your aspiration, your dreams can come true on this dance.
Yeah.
We just gotta do a different time. I don't think New Year's is the time, but I think a few weeks down the road, we can get the extra money, we can put out a pretty good show where people are like, wow, okay, what's the next one? That's what you want, what's the next
So
one?
what a hypothetical, Valentine's Day, it's on a Friday. You
I
have
think
Friday
the
and
only-
Saturday.
That's the only catch with that, I think, goes back to that, if the rec committee ourselves are willing to take on the full capacity of that, of volunteers and stuff, I think that's something that we probably could do, but just knowing that that's when the rec department puts on the father-daughter dance. So now we're competing
With the parents of
with the
kids
parent,
that are-
you know,
Yeah,
so
so-
that's their weekend that they've already
So
established.
we'd have to sit down and find a date, see what would work.
I think also, like, potentially run into some of the same barriers with restaurants. Like,
Yes.
they're all gonna be running their
But again,
Valentine's Day
if we're the
menus.
ones doing the stuff though, you know what I mean?
But are people gonna wanna go out for a fine dining experience at like La Belvedere or Pine Pasta or, you know, where, you know, all of our local, like, fine restaurants? Or are they gonna wanna come to a dance event? They're not the same thing, but there's still some
Right.
level of competition.
So it sounds like there's still more discussion on this to be had, and it sounds like we're generally in agreement. Do you wanna make a motion?
Yeah, so I'm gonna entertain a motion to, kind of merge the idea of the New Year's dance with an adult prom and make those into one larger event, maybe look at a 2-night kind of thing or something like that. So I'll entertain a motion to move forward with postponing the New Year's dance into more of a prom in the early winter months of the next year. Entertain a motion. I got a motion by Vaughn, you got a
I'll second
second? Second by Sherry, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Alright.
Hey, Valentine's Day is on a Friday. You should join the committee and share those thoughts.
I'll be
Really,
willing- I'd be
yes.
willing to
Come to
help.
the next meeting.
I'd be willing to help. I just, summertime, I'm extremely busy, spring, summer,
Yeah.
I'm really busy. I have a little bit more time. I'm not saying I'm loaded with time. But I had a little time, sat down, I started thinking, I said, this
Great.
potentially could be a great thing.
You might be able
We
to
just
pick up
have
some
to
of my
prepare it the
upcoming
right way.
slack, Vaughn.
There you
Pick
go.
up some of my upcoming
I
slack.
got one on the way too. So.
So side-by-side raffle, Jess?
Yeah, so
Side-by-side
we've been
raffle.
talking to Jamie at the fire station. Laura and I they pass through our office and we've been talking with them. They do a lawnmower raffle every year and make a couple $1,000s for their department. And then the police canine, Josh Lillis just did a canine raffle for them, made a couple $1,000s too. And I was thinking, you know, the fire department does a lawnmower. The canine raffle was is it a lawnmower too, maybe?
It's a zero turn.
Yeah,
Is
it
there
was
a
a-
time? I think if we checked in with Harvest Equipment or one of the ATV or the UTV dealers to see what kind of deal we could get on a side-by-side, those are super popular right now, and I think that if we did a raffle in the springtime, right before the trails start to open, I think we could probably sell quite a few tickets to that. And the way that it works is you buy the equipment at a discounted rate, see what kind of deal you can strike up with a vendor, and then you sell enough to cover it. But they were making thousands of dollars on it, and were not even worried about not covering the cost of it. So I think that might be a relatively easy thing to do. So I just wanted to bring that up now to start thinking about if that was something that the committee would be interested in. We could start checking in with vendors and see what kind of pricing.
Especially if they open up the roads.
Well,
Yeah,
yes, so I think that would be cool.
there's a really cheap model that we just came out with for side by side. I think they're like $9,000 or $10,000.
Yeah.
They're really inexpensive.
Yeah, I
think
probably would
that's
talk
one
to
of the
Waltz.
borderline benchmarks is.
Yeah, I would talk to Waltz before I talk to anybody else.
Well, they might be willing to give us a good price on something.
Yeah.
You know, it's for.
Didn't they give one to the sheriff's department or something?
They might have.
Last year they gave one.
Feels like it could be a little bit of a lightning rod for us to, no, I mean, for the rec committee to raffle off a side-by-side, I mean, there's still some
Well,
discussion being
to
had.
the credit of this
Had it
agenda, we
carefully.
kind of had that on there before all that
We-
happened. We had talked about that, a while ago with those guys, and we can wait and see how, it's not anything we have to do today. It would be something we would do closer to the springtime after the first of the year, so we can kind of wait and see how things pan out there. Yeah, we might not want to step in that right now, but.
So right now, what's on the table is just doing more further look into what deals we might get.
Yeah,
Right?
It wouldn't hurt to do some research on it, and then like I said, see what happens and make a decision on it then. It doesn't
How
hurt
is
to
it
look around and do
marketed,
some
or how do you
research.
sell, how does that work? Like, do
We-
people stop by the fire station, or do they do it through their website, how does that work?
They just bring their members, carry these tickets around with them, and kind of, it would be similar to the ice sale. We'd have it on our website and
Okay,
post it on Facebook, and people could come buy them from you. We could put them at stores, like we
I
did
could
with
sell a
the-
lot of those at school, I'm just telling you.
Yeah,
Kids
well,
spend money
the
on
public
stuff.
works department would all buy a handful of them, and
Okay, cool.
Pretty much anything with ATVs, guns around this area, you're gonna sell them out everything.
yeah.
They sell
Yeah, I would
themselves.
almost say like a sale on something like this, like a sci-fi sale, regardless of what happens with the
Yeah.
activity here in town in terms of like access.
Still be-
Like, people
They're
want
very
the
popular.
equipment, and if you could buy a $200 ticket or
Yeah.
whatever you sell them for, and get a $10,000 piece of equipment, like, people are gonna
Yeah.
spend the money on that, so, cause it's just a, cheap
And that's what everybody's into right now. It's just so popular. It's incredible. Everybody, so many people that I know have them. Just within the last couple of years, it's like so crazy. So we certainly don't, if the committee wants us to move forward, Laura and I can start reaching out to some vendors and just see what that might look like, and we can wait to see how things pan out. Bring update to the next meeting.
Is there anyone opposed to the idea of them investigating?
No.
Okay, go for it.
It's on our list.
Fundraising project, and so we have the sponsorship packet and Garden Park Restoration Launch Event. Ooh.
So I didn't bring a ton of these, but we did want to let you guys know that we sent out the first batch of sponsorship packets to some of the vendors. We sent about 21 out last week. This is what they got. It's this spiffy nice envelope with a letter from myself, just talking about where we're at in the project, how much money's been raised already, and that we're now looking to get support from enterprises or businesses to help close the gap on our fundraising. So this is the body of work that we had been working on with the great pictures of the local kids in the park and the different sponsorship levels. So this is what the banks that have been coming out and asking how can they help. This is what we're giving them as a tool to formalize that type of support. There's also a commitment form in here so that when they're ready to put a pen to paper and really commit to they'll be able to submit that to us.
Can you see that?
Yes.
And so that commitment form is like their RSVP, that way we know they're coming, or is there like a,
So there was also this invitation to the launch event there, so we'll be able to talk to them a little bit more about the project, and give them some more in-depth details so they know to RSVP to us if they plan on attending that. And then we'll be able to share all the information, all the progress, and stuff like that. So we're hoping again that everyone can attend that. So,
When is that again, because we're moving the date?
it's
Gala?
Friday the 8th, of November.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, I think it was the
So I
second.
can't do November
Yeah,
8th.
which I knew, and so you were the only one that got back and said it's not doable, if you can make
Yeah.
it great. But we had suggestions that maybe a Friday might be more beneficial than a Wednesday.
Is
People
that
have
still
good
the
vibes
same?
on Fridays and
Veterans Day.
have you had
Veterans Day is
like,
the following
so do you feel like you have all the other details as far as that event goes?
Yeah, so.
Catering and everything, you're like good.
Yep, so we reached out to, for the love of food, maybe, Cassie.
Yep.
Yeah, and so she's gonna be giving us a catered menu. I spoke with her on the phone, talked about what we were trying to do, what the purpose was for, and she came up with a great plan and said, we'll do this at this time, and we'll do this at this time, and we'll set this here, and so she's
They're
got
great
that.
caterers.
She's got that under control. She's gonna be giving that to us
Great.
next week. We did just this past weekend, for those of you that weren't involved, had a photo shoot with a bunch of the Recreation Committee kids, dressed up as what they wanna be when they get older. And so the idea here is that we're supporting the future of these children. So we're gonna print those, and Randy Lee Photography came and was phenomenal with the kids as usual. We're gonna blow up those photos in black and white and put them around the room. along with a lot of other things for people to wander around and look at before the presentation starts. I also reached out to Jen at Newport City Elementary, the art teacher there, and asked if there was room in her curriculum for her to incorporate some prompted drawing or artworks for her students. That, you know, started with the prompt, a playground is a place where and then, you know, meet new friends or get to play or imagine or whatever it is they come up with, hoping that she could give us some artwork that we could then showcase at the event to talk about.
Has she responded?
I didn't get a response directly from her for a couple days, so I did forward, but it was over the long weekend, and I'm not sure what her schedule was. I forwarded it along to Elaine, who has written a letter of support for the last grant that we received. Just updated her and said, we got the grant, yahoo! And P.S., just letting you know that I sent this to Jen so you're aware of the request. And she wrote back right away and said, I'll touch base with her. I would love for her students to be involved in this. So hoping to have that nice little detail too as part of the event. So it's really going to be nice if we can pull all that stuff together.
I was just gonna say, if it falls through, there's a couple of us with school
Yeah, they're in
connections.
school, yeah.
Like, it's not Newport City, but.
Well, Elaine's got also grandkids that live in this community.
Yeah, she seems really eager. Her letter was great. It's actually, we quoted her in this sponsorship packet too. She understands what the impact means for this community for that place, So things are coming together really nice. You know, all I'm asking again is for your availability. I probably will be in touch closer with our officers as we get closer to really figure out what that presentation is going to look like, who's going to say what, and stuff like that. I also do, I wasn't going to share this tonight, but if we've got some time, which it looks like we're in pretty good shape for our agenda, I'd love to show you the new renderings that Elizabeth sent.
Yay!
This will be great for Amy to see. I'll pull those up. She's finished her work. We just paid the last portion of that for her. So she's finished that up. She's sent me a bunch of snapshots, and she's also working on a digital fly-through of the concept so that we could show that at the event, which would be great. So let me pull up these images. You want to flip that to you?
Are we allowed to show this is being recorded today?
I think it's okay. She's done at this point,
Okay.
so. Thanks for, and this is a public meeting, so whatever we show here. Okay, all right, so. This is an overview of what the playground's going to look like. So for Amy and Lori, who haven't seen this really for the first time, you can see some of the big features here. Right now you know that the sidewalk kind of ends up here. Part of the mission of this was to make the accessibility and the access from the bike path in the street a lot easier for strollers, bikes, people that have mobility issues or devices to come through, set a nice walking path that runs right through the center of the playground here with a central resting area. There's some benches here and a nice big tree. This is also where, when we do our component sales, our brick sales, that we'll have the bricks right around this area right here, which will be great. The existing pavilion stays. This is actually an older one. These swings aren't here. Toddler area here. 5 to 12, big, massive structure here. Keeping the existing swings there, but taking them down and powder coating them so they look like brand new, putting new actual swings on them, including the generation swing seats and the handicap swings. Keeping the existing jungle gyms, but powder coating those and getting them ready as well. This is where the splash pad would go. It's got a nice sidewalk around the outside with some benches here, and then the sail shade structure here. That nasty chain link fence is going bye-bye. We're going to have some nice landscaping boulders here. This is where conceptually at this point we're thinking of putting those boulders for the higher end sponsors, business sponsors that have their names on it. Right at the entrance here, we may space those out depending on how many sponsors we get. But putting post and beam or Morgan rail fence that looks kind of like post and beam around here, nice 3 foot low, but having a lot of landscaping around it so to keep the kids in, but be able to see the lake and get that nice visual of an open park. To wrap that all the way around here. A gate right here to close the through traffic through the playground because people just use it as a racetrack. Some boulders here and a new crosswalk here to be able to make that a little bit safer for pedestrians. And then of course the renovations to the skate shack, which include pulling down those stall bathrooms, making them family units with changing stations and a lot bigger so that families can go in and do that kind of thing. opening up the multi-purpose space, adding some more exits there so that when people say, hey, I really want to have my birthday party at that playground, we then have a place for community events and gatherings like that. Also adding the little concession area on the backside so that during ball tournaments, if a group wants to come in, or the recreation committee, and do chips and dogs and whatever, there's a space for people to do that. And then, there's some utility stuff like changing this to propane heat, adding hot water in there, and some stuff like that. So that's where we're at now with the overview, but let me just show you the other renderings that she's given us. So there's the sail shade area and the splash pad. That might have been actually an older one. Yeah, these are older.
Is the fence staying up for the baseball field?
Yes, the fence will stay up. We did put, you can see in this one, a lot of shade trees along the backside to kind of, hide it, but still make it like that. So that's a conceptual playground. Again, we haven't picked the actual playground, the actual features on it, but we want to go with like the green and blue aquatic, for the lake to enhance that. This is a view of the sail shade structure from the splash pad.
I've had several people ask me about the, the fire thing that kids sit on, you take their picture on it in the park. What is that called? Like the wagon thing, do you guys know what I'm
The
talking
hook
about?
and ladder structure?
Yeah, that hook and ladder thing, whatever. I've had several people say that
Hook and ladder company.
they want that to stay because they have pictures of themselves on that and they want their kids to have access to that. So I told them I would bring that back. Like, I've had probably a handful of people ask me about that structure. And I have my kids' pictures from there, but I didn't think anything else.
You're talking about this one right here, this structure here, that this kid's sitting on that hook and ladder.
Yeah.
We certainly could take that down and powder coat that as well and redo the hook and ladder sign on the front of it and keep that. That's not something that's really a danger or dangerous.
I think the only thing that's not good about that structure is like the bench is wood, and so it's splintered and it's, it's rough looking, but I think that could have more of like a more sturdy bench installed on it. Powder coated.
And but a fall protection, what's underneath there.
But I've had a handful of people ask me about that structure, about whether
it's good to know at this point so that it doesn't get yanked put somewhere.
That had wanted it to stay, or even if it moved to a different part, like of the park or something. But people really like that structure.
Okay,
it's almost like a good entrance piece, for photo op purposes. It might not be like a play structure anymore if you were to keep it, but is there a place where you could position it where it's like a fun, relaxing photo op kind of piece?
And I'm pretty sure that that was something that the fire department maybe raised money for.
I was gonna say, maybe you could put something in our report, fire department or something, Did they ever talk about addressing the parking from that side? Remember you said you didn't want parking?
Yep, so we talked about that too. We'll go back to that in a second. So this is a view of the crosswalk area and what that fence will look like. Keeping with that kind of post and rail, mooring rail fence thing, splash pad here. The view of the jungle gym.
Nice.
Splash pad.
And grass.
So is there gonna be actual grass in there, or is that just for what's?
What you see, the brown will be the wood chips, what's green will be the grass, so restoring all of that grass. The first thing we're doing is getting that crappy piece down.
Yeah.
And putting in, because there's no fall protection, it's not even legit really for a playground, so. So what we'll have surfacing around is only what's required to have surfacing around. And there's a certain amount of space you have to have from the end of a slide to whatever.
Well, that's a lot less, you have to keep bringing wood chips in because they get tamped down and spread out all over the place. So
We wanted to clean it up. We wanted the green space.
Yeah, it looks too dull. It almost looks like a desert right now.
It does.
Yeah.
Yucky. That's a nice view of that central area. So again, having the family bricks down on the bottom side here, and then the corporate sponsors at the $5,000 level will go around that inside part. Nice overview shot there. You can see that the playground's handicap accessible. Shoot shot from over the top of the ball field. So it's nice shade trees. And there's the rec committee float for the Aquafest. So yeah, those are the ones that she's provided for us at this point, which is great. Vaughn's question was about the parking. So we talked about, there are a lot of families that like to access the lake, and we'll even furthermore, once we get into phase 2 of Gardner Park and develop that shoreline, have the paddleboard rentals and all of that stuff near that dock area, there's a lot of traversing that goes back and forth between the playground area here and the bathrooms at this point are only here. So that's why we put this gate in to stop that through traffic, but we also, I really hate when there's cars parked on both sides here and a kid going out from in between the cars there is a huge hazard. So we talked with our public works director about how can we eliminate the parking here, but the concern was that if you only have this little parking area for this entrance of the parking lot, and then you have your ball players that come in for the big tournaments and they want to use, was it field 2 up in the top? Are they going to really park all the way down here and then walk their butts up there, or are they just going to end up parking on the road again? So we talked about putting a parking area up by where the Veterans Memorial is, a little bit back behind that, just giving them a place to have to park near that ball field might help alleviate that problem. So that's something that we're kind of looking into and figuring out how we can handle that too.
Does that mean that you also probably need to put up like no parking signs along the way?
We might even narrow the road or put barriers or put something like a physical something there, because it doesn't matter there are no parking signs down there. It doesn't matter.
Well, and when you have tournaments in there, they don't have parking there, they don't have enough parking.
Well, and the good news is
That's my main concern, is like when you have tournaments or any kind of functions like that, where you have a football game, soccer game, and a baseball game going on, everybody's gonna park where they can find a spot.
Yeah. So the good news is Tom has already started expanding parking down at the ball fields. The access, what we'll have to train the community and the ball players or anyone that's looking to access the athletic fields is that, especially once that gate's in there, you're gonna have to choose which entrance you wanna go to. So they'll learn which one has the most parking. We already have this area right here. Tom has paved and made diagonal parking spaces all down through here. We're also looking at readjusting this entire layout up here to open that up. So there's going to be more than plenty of parking on this side. They'll just have to learn to use that one for tournaments and stuff like that. And then so here we would eliminate the road parking. I'll keep this right here next to the skate shack, but then potentially put maybe something here just so that they're closer to the ball field there. But my guess is the ball players are likely going to be parking mostly in that area.
I think if you address it early enough, then it's gonna be very limited parking on field 2. Bring it to this, Harper's running the softball league at the time, and say, adjust the players, let them know that those who are playing field 2 park at that designated spot, and the rest of them have to park in that area. So I think you could train them that way.
Yeah, exactly.
But it has to
It's the
be
tournaments
addressed
that are gonna be
before.
tough.
Yeah.
Because you gotta allow them to know there's no parking on that. I think put like flower barriers like they do at the borderline would do that, keep people from parking. Because like you said, you can't see kids.
Or signage out on the causeway too, like if you've got tournament members that are coming in that way, or like, are they coming in from the 191 access road? You just might have to think about signage further out away from the park to redirect them to the right side.
Yeah. It'll definitely be a little bit of a learning curve. This actually was gated at one point, but it wasn't until I think they were working on the Long Bridge that they eliminated that and started using that. So it's just going to be retraining the community on that. And I'm sure not everyone's going to love it, but you can't always please everybody. Vaughn, what do you think? One thing is I don't love. I'd hate to lose this green space to a parking area because it's so visual and one of the first things you see. Do you think if we were to continue and put a space here? Do you think that would be sufficient for these guys? They're going to walk in from these.
They could, but you'd have to open up from the backside.
Right, you have to open the gate.
Right, that's what we do. We'd adjust it over here and build it.
The only thing I can see is that you do have bullpens there for the Little League, for Babe Ruth there, 2 pitching bullpens in there. They make streaming of that. Yeah, they do.
In Babe Ruth,
But you can always easily readjust, put it over there on the other side.
Reconfigure it or put those, somewhere
Well,
else.
But as we were talking, I can see right here, where you can get some additional parking, you can actually expand the parking lot here, cut this part off right here, and this whole area could be a big parking lot, because you don't use that. You're not using a scoreboard or anything right there.
Right.
You could take a little chunk off of that, and I bet that adds about 15, 20 spots.
Right, but what
easily.
about the softballs coming out that way?
Well, you could put a netting up there if need to be, just to cover that area.
Well, and I think too, Tom's got
People park there anyways now.
I know, because there's no room.
Yeah, so people know if they park anywhere near a field, they're gonna get hit with softball.
The biggest challenge you're gonna find with softball is the tournaments. They're weekly,
everybody during the
Knows,
week will adjust easily. It's when you have those big tournaments and it's so big.
Have them, I was just gonna say the same thing.
Where?
Have them park where the farmer's market is, and
Well,
put in a walking room.
But what about the farmer's market on Saturday?
Yeah, well, I think you'd have to close that front entrance off over by Vista
Yeah.
and put a sign, please go around the backside and have a sign, like a detour sign, so people get
Yeah.
accustomed to it.
Yeah.
And once they learn that, after the first year, they'll learn to it, but you're gonna have to accommodate some more parking on that spot.
I
Yeah.
wonder if we could, where the insurance place is on Saturdays, if we could ask them if we could use that as
I'm sure
additional
they
parking,
would let
the
you.
overflow.
And a lot of people do anyways.
Because that would help with the tournament stuff.
Jess,
The tournaments are the biggest issue.
I don't think you should put a parking lot at the front of the.
I don't either. I don't think it'll look good.
Okay, good, so that wasn't just me, all right.
No, I agree.
I think
That's
that-
what-
I don't wanna
And it's
upset the ball
beautiful
players, but
there.
I do think it's important to put a gate in there to
They'll
stop
learn to
through
walk.
No,
traffic
but that's-
and not have kids.
Yeah, it's
That's
just the
what my
tournaments that
intent
they have
was,
overflow. The
maybe have it
regular
on that side,
nights,
'cause
they'll be fine.
it-
Well, and I
it
think
defeats the
like
purpose
how
of trying
many
to restore that
families
second
come
wave.
to these tournaments who have little kids too. You're now also forcing your parking to be at that end and not like clustering around the playground
Right,
as
right.
well.
That's what my biggest concern is. I don't want
Yeah.
I don't want kids walking out between the cars
Right.
because, oh yes, it might be inconvenient for someone to have to walk to the ball field, but it's gonna be more inconvenient for that parent that loses their kid to a
Yeah.
whatever.
I really don't think your regulars are gonna be the issue. I
Yeah.
do think it's that they have huge
I
tournaments.
think we can work with that.
How many
But if you
sponsors?
wanna look at some other like rec communities, like I'm just thinking from my own hometown community that has a big rec park like this down in Manchester, like there is no traffic, no parking near your little kid
Right.
structures,
It shouldn't be.
period. Like you have to park and kind of hoof into those areas, or where all of their softball, baseball fields are, you still have to walk,
Yeah.
a little quarter-mile kind of distance in. So I think that for these families and people who travel around to tournament, this is gonna be an old hat thing
Yeah.
for them. We just have to break the habits.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My only concern is that you may have to shut that off, because you got limited parking right there by the skate rack.
Yeah, and people
So
going.
people are gonna go there and they're
to
gonna overflow, and they're gonna do it. So I think you might have to close it off right there and just have, if they're gonna be able to park there, you're gonna have to come from that side, opposed from coming from the
Yeah.
Vista side. Because that's what's gonna happen, that corner gets congested, next thing you know, it's gonna be all down the side, because you see it happen all the time.
Well,
So maybe
and-
put a gate there during the events.
yeah, it could be
Or
during
barriers.
tournaments, if they can't get in that end. They only get in one end.
Yeah, or playground parking only,
Yeah, that's
Or-
that's
or
what I
you
was
just-
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea, playground parking.
I'm sure it'll take a little bit of experimentation once we get to that point, but the other good news is, this is such a gravel lot right now, it's a free-for-all, and people park like a little, especially down here, it gets all
Yeah.
messed up. The good news is Tom is planning on incorporating into his budget, they're crushing a tar pile, and then he's hoping to be able to overlay that, and then be to a point, once this gets done, to be able to line it and pave it. That's the plan at this point.
And if they fill in that section that's got that ditch right there where the green is up top,
Yeah.
you can add space, some of the
Yeah, there's
people
some
park there
opportunity, I
anyways,
think,
but.
but
You're talking about paving that parking lot, is that what you're saying?
the road and the parking areas, yeah. So. Cool, so that's a little treat that I'm sure you're excited for, being part of that very first, it's really happening.
Well, I mean, I remember when like the orange and blue structure when I was a kid when that was.
So next on our agenda is the Denver Brick Fundraiser.
I don't know that we have, I was hoping to have a form, prepared for you guys, and it just didn't get to that point.
Okay.
To you guys, so I'll give you an update, maybe by email or whatever, and send that out to you.
Okay.
But we're still planning on a mid-November, probably launch date right after the launch event, getting that out to the community.
Community involvement.
Monster Bash, or no?
So I was gonna do that.
Oh, no, community involvement was like the farmer's market stuff.
And we don't have anything there, so updates from Parks and Rec, let's look at Laura.
We still need 3 judges.
3
So-
might be able
When
to
is
get.
it?
I'm gonna try, I
not
can't
the
promise.
second,
Oh,
but
you
next
can.
week.
I
You're
can't, the
a
bash is on the 26th, right?
Yeah.
I have a church convention that I have to go to.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Is that
I'm
what
hoping
time
is it
that the
I have to
judge gets.
Oh, it's
Picks
1
my-
to, the
I was
event's
gonna
1
go.
to 3, but just trick or treating start at 12:30.
We don't have to start judging until
Yeah.
1.
I would say, but we announced winners at 2,
Yeah.
right? So really, like, an hour and a half.
Yeah.
From like 1 to 2.
The 26th.
And the 26th. And you get to win a fancy sashes.
It's really fun.
We keep costumes.
And I did it last year, and it was really fun.
It was fun. You walk around.
I would have
and
done it, I just
You have
can't
little
live together,
tickets,
so.
and you give them out to your favorite, like, cute, creepy,
Group.
creative and group.
Yeah.
And then so any of your favorites, and then anybody with a ticket gets to come up on stage at the end, and then you see all of them like side by side, and then you choose your winner from each group.
And we all get a little pumpkin medal, but
Probably
then the
like
winners get like a goodie bag or something.
1 to 2:30.
So if you're planning on coming to the.
Well, it's usually once
you
you have the parade, right? And then on their way back from the parade is when the judges were right there on the bridge.
We came from,
talked about
well, we come
changing
from the
that.
pumpkin up.
We talked about changing that. Remember last year you guys suggested just wandering Main Street during trick or treating and handing them out around Main Street? Because it would create a really big bottleneck on the bridge.
Yeah, and not everybody walked in
And not
the,
everybody walks in.
We definitely handed out more tickets just walking around, and like in the gym and walking down to that Main Street. And the fact that like you have the sash this year, people will know that you're
Honorary
I'll be
judge.
looking for it. I'm just
Yeah.
So yeah, so we need to figure that out sooner than later. We need 3. So
Yeah.
if you guys can't do it, then I need to find something else.
I could probably do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, put it down. I wonder if Jamie will be around. She's not here, so we can vote her in to do anything.
So one of
Will
the-
she want to attend with
I
Gus
would say
though?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gus might
That's
be
fine.
able to be
We'll be
co-judge.
there around.
True.
You might enjoy that.
yeah, but Gus probably wouldn't dress up though.
Kids
Be
probably
dressed up.
start at
Well, she can wander still trick or treating
Well-
with us, and
What show is she practicing for?
I think this is it for her, but Gus is in something else.
Hoomer and Heather or whatever.
Staff and volunteers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we
And that
get,
show is
a
like
lot of the camp staff.
after the Monster Bash.
Right, I know Saturday and Sundays they're practicing now.
Put me down.
So I don't know if they're,
Vaughn says he's
Put me
down
down
to
so
do it.
probably.
Okay,
Right now,
Bonnie will
it's
do it.
tentative, but
Alright, we only have
I'll
3
do my best.
sessions, so if Jamie wants to do 2, you're gonna have to fight.
We have to duke it out.
that's all right.
So yeah, okay, cool.
Any other updates from Parks and Rec?
We're in our facilities closed Monday, so in the process of blowing out lines and taking in docks and transitioning into that winter stuff now. Most of our seasonals are gone, so we're just down to the bare minimum staff, which is nice when I do time sheets on Monday mornings, but things are good for us. I don't think there's anything really major.
Upcoming volunteer opportunities we just talked about. There's no other ones for us in the coming future as far as.
If anyone knows any high schoolers or kids who need some community service hours, Monster Bash is a great one because we just take them on a game and let them hand out prizes to the kids and stuff.
The date again.
26th, so it's not this Saturday, but next Saturday.
And we need a good 20 to 30 volunteers for that.
What do you need high school kids for?
I can send you the email that I usually send out, the time commitment and what they're doing.
they do the games.
We
Like
do
they stand
little
there.
games.
I'm sure
And scrounge them up. I'll send you I'll make a note to send the information.
Other business. So, as you all know, we do have one open seat on our rec committee. We have both Amy and Lori here who are interested in being on the rec committee. At our last meeting, the committee expressed an interest in just getting to know Amy and Lori a little bit before making a recommendation to the city council.
Laura did say that the agenda Monday was pretty full, so she
Okay.
actually bumped it off a little bit later.
Okay.
But of course, the council needs to appoint the official members. They take a recommendation from the committee.
So
So
we're
I don't
sending forth one name.
Yes, we'd have to send forth one name. We'd have to send forth one name.
Sorry.
So, but
So, I don't know, go ahead, Jess.
well, my suggestion would be that, yeah, we've always had a chance to meet both of them. Amy had her letter in first, and she also participated in the coin drop, and there's a potential that we may end up having another alternate seat open up pretty soon too. So I think it would be good to hang on a second and just let that stew until we find out about that alternate seat too, because we may be able to pull both of you guys on, which would be great. And also, you know, the meetings are always open to anybody anyway, so.
That's how Vaughn got here.
That's how Ron got here. He came and just said,
Just
"Yeah,
get
you're on."
coming. We had an opening, we took them.
Yeah, so we appreciate both of the interest of you guys, for sure. It's always nice to have that, but I think we've got a little bit of time to find out about the alternate seat and go from there.
Does anybody have any questions for either Amy or Lori now from the rec, any
They're
of the
hot.
committee members? As far as their interest or
Has
background?
tonight changed your interest from?
Still, sure.
I mean, I'm really bad at saying no to things, so like, I'm already kind of volunteering myself for things, but on a committee, I'm not really.
That's the kind of member we need.
I think we're a little like.
The other thing that I want to mention too, is that Maren has had a discussion with Jen and I. Jen's got her maternity leaves coming up. We know that we may potentially be able to fill in a little bit of her slack while she relaxes and takes a little bit of time. Maren's also acknowledged that she's super crazy right now and has shown interest in stepping down to a regular committee seat as opposed to being vice president and having to fill Jen's shoes while she's gone.
Not that big. Sorry.
Yeah, and Jamie has, Jamie's been at the committee and has been at the most meetings and seems to be really involved with other things. So we asked her if she would be interested in stepping into that role, and she expressed that she would be interested in taking over the vice chair role. So Maren gets off the hook, and then Jamie's interested in that. So if we want to make that move, we can do that as a committee, or you guys can do that as a committee. You'll just need to make a motion to make that adjustment.
Okay, so what's on the table is knowing Maren stepping down. Now entertain a motion of putting Jamie in as the vice chair.
I move to put Jamie in as the
I
vice.
have a first move with Sherry. Do I have a second? Second with AJ. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it. We'll let Jamie know that she will be filling in maybe at the next meeting.
Yeah. Good. So that's good. The other thing that I wanted to mention on here was we did have some feedback in our office just requesting that maybe we could publish our public meeting notice and agenda a little bit sooner. We did do it in time for the 48 hours, which is what's required, but just maybe getting it out a little bit sooner so that we'd have some more exposure and maybe more communities might be interested. We also could commit to posting it on our Facebook page, which is
I was wondering
what we
about that,
normally do.
okay.
But somebody requested to see that type of information a little bit more accessible. So just bringing that to the committee for suggestion. I think if we're going to put out our minutes and stuff, maybe it would make sense to kind of do it one and the same.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Jess, because I feel like I created the Newport Recreation Committee Facebook page, but it doesn't get a lot of activity, and so we're not going to get a lot of people interested in it if I don't have I need your help, I guess, in keeping it fresh. Posting things, and I would totally.
How many group administrators do you have on your Facebook page?
Currently, I invited anyone who is in this room that is a member that
Did we
has
answer
Facebook.
Did we answer?
So if you don't have Facebook, you didn't get that, but not everybody did. So,
And I know, like for us, we have a Facebook page for the rec department, and
Seen it,
there's
a
a
while
huh? Is it
William.
on there?
There's a Newport Recreation
can
Committee
you
post.
post? It's just you don't think, if you're not the type of person that.
Can you send it again? Because I don't know. I think I liked it, the page. But we're talking about posting minutes after we've put it through the meeting and approved them.
No, technically you have to post them within 5 days of having the meeting. You can slap draft all over it, or unapproved or whatever it is that you want, but you do need to have them up by law 5 days after. So that's what we've been doing. They're posted on the website. You can see all the previous minutes since we
Look
started.
at me, I'm giving it the next day.
Yes, and so the other thing that I think would be helpful is eliminating the middleman. So Jim and Becky would be great to include on the agenda notifications and on the minutes, just because not the minutes necessarily, but the agenda notifications, because they're the ones that post them.
So I typically
you send
send it to
me,
this
I print it off
group.
and give it to them. Yeah,
Jim
So-
and Becky.
yeah, and I can give you their email addresses,
Okay.
but that might help just make it a little bit more efficient and that much more expedient to get them up there. But I think that's a reasonable request and a great way to get more exposure to have people come and
I
hear
think,
what's going on.
I think it's a good idea, and I also think that when we're doing these events, we should have someone in the silent where one of us that are there taking pictures, or taking a small video clip we can add to that, because those are the things that people aren't seeing, they're hearing it, but when they see it and they can see it, like, wow, you guys did that, you guys are part of that, and then people start asking questions. So I think that helps. I mean, I've done it with basketball tournaments and all kinds of things, and it truly helps. So I think we just gotta keep that in mind when we do our next project, whatever it may be, is that one of us has to be designated to do that, or find somebody who will do it for us in the back, behind the scenes type deal.
Yeah.
Jen, did you put the picture of you and Maren doing the coin drop?
Mary put the picture of Mary and I doing
See, I'm
the
not
coin
getting
drop.
those.
I as I was going through the coin drop, I
You're on
rolled down, I picked my camera,
wanted to
and
get
Jamie's
some
like,
ideas.
but I didn't.
You guys like took my offices, me like,
We had money to count.
know, yeah.
and
And then also put a picture of Jamie and Amy.
Yeah, great.
So if you, if
I wonder I wasn't
if
watched
you post
actually.
something on Facebook, that's gonna sound terribly old, but if you put something on Facebook and you put at Newport City Parks and Rec, what happens then? Does it get shared on that page as well, or does it just alert that page that there's something they're tagging?
Question, young one?
I believe it won't show up on our main page, it might show up on community posts.
When we get a
So-
notification that you've tagged us.
Yes,
But we can't actually share things or put things on your page.
on
No,
our
it
main
goes on the
but
side,
if
yeah.
we share it, it'll show up in our main
Right.
post, but if you go to like our page, there's like our post, and then the very tiny side,
Yeah.
it's like community posts.
Oh.
And so like it's,
They don't
when
let you.
people post on our page
Got it.
from their side,
But if there's something that you've posted you want us to share,
that'll show up.
just shoot us a text whenever we're like, hey, because we're always looking for content or.
Well, you can also like tag in a post, so like, so if you have like a rec committee page, and then you tag Newport Recs and Park or whatever, then I think that gets you around your community post. Like if you're tagging each other in your posts, then it goes on to each main
I'm not
post.
sure.
See, I tried tagging,
We have a business page.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
it's
different. It would let
So
me know.
how
That
come
might
we
be a
can't
privacy
post on
and
the
settings.
How come we can't post from that site?
You can on the rec.
On ours,
page.
you can.
Oh.
Newport Rec Committee, we're talking, but the parks,
Oh, Parks and Rec, we can't, I
Yeah.
gotcha.
Well, you can send messages by messenger, like say if I sent you one, say, this happened here and there, and say it to you,
Post up there.
you can take it and then copy
Yeah.
it, post it on your site.
And that's
the
probably
way
the better
around it.
practice anyway, because we don't want the community to be confused by what your activities are versus what the rec department is. There does need to be that clear delineation, but we love to say, hey, shout out to the rec committee doing, whatever. So I think,
I'm just thinking, any activity that we do, the race that I just did, for
Yeah.
example, should go there, whereas I went there. So I tagged the rec department, not the rec.
see, that's what I did with the coin.
Yeah.
I found yours, remember you and I talked, and I got it from Messenger, and I posted it, and I could put my own little thing on top, and say,
Yeah.
come support Mike Nolan and his team, everybody,
Yeah.
and share exactly what you had.
Yeah.
So that's probably what you would like to do, that way you can alter it to do whatever
Yeah,
it's.
yeah, and I think, Mike, you can still tag the rec department in it, because as long as it's coming from you, like that's the voice that's saying it, would be different than if you got it in ours
No, yeah.
as Newport Rec and said, look what we're doing.
I get that, I'm more concerned about
and the
that.
only,
page.
well, and the only thing about, the sticky part about the Newport Rec Committee page that I created is that I can only invite people that I'm friends with. And so that only reaches a certain extent of the community, whereas each and every one of you then can turn around, and if you could invite and
Well, right,
share,
that's
and
what
ask
we
people
share
to
things,
like it,
yeah.
then it will grow. And I've tried to share it, but I'll go on again and.
I don't know if I ever
Just be
like,
careful who
I
you share
don't
with,
know.
if you got negative friends, keep them off, but that's it.
Well, I
it
think,
takes a degree of monitoring.
Yeah, some people.
and
no
we've
matter
had to
what-
already kind of monitor it and buffer, and you know what I mean? So we have to, as admin, we have to watch what's going on, of course. But also we want to hear people's thoughts and ideas, right? Like, so, yeah, I'll resend that one again and hopefully we can grow it. Any other business?
I've got a question, just looking at this fundraising goal real quick. For some reason, I was thinking fall of next year.
Yes.
That's accurate. So, we've got a bit of a gap there.
But Laura and I were talking about that today. If we redo all the fundraisers that we did over the last year, knowing that you're on a second year, so your exposure is going to be a little bit better, and then you continue to add in more little things, I think it's certainly within reach.
Well,
You didn't do your adult prom last year,
Well, and we can't forget about the golf event that we
Right.
want to
we're
still
doing
do,
fine.
right? That's
Yeah.
not going away, it was just postponed
Yeah.
to the spring, which could bring in another good chunk of handle, another coin drop.
well, and I think we could do, up at Proudy Beach, I think we could do a 2-on-2 basketball tournament up on the Proudy Beach court, and I think we can do a volleyball tournament on the beach that will raise some money.
And I don't want to forget about, this just popped into my mind, I remember Mary Hobley from the Wellness Center saying, approach me in the fall, and so I'll reach back out to her. She's offered to just come and do a volunteer kind of Zumba or some kind of a wellness event, which is little work on our part. She's gonna come and do it, we just need a space, and whatever money she makes, will go right to us. And so I'm thinking it might be time to reach back out to her again and say, all right, it's the fall, what do you think about a date for that?
I know Jamie sent an email too about wanting to do a crop event or something, which she's very familiar with, so she wants to do that in January. I'm sure she'll bring information on that. So there's still, I think we're gonna be fine. And that's a goal, and it was a lofty one, which we knew, but that makes this work that much harder, right?
Like, I guess that was more my question. Do we have any kind of plan in place? Should we not reach that goal?
I think that our funding is gonna be fine for the playground. This is just a contribution that you guys are able to make, but I certainly, at this point, I'm pretty confident that we'll make the funding that we need to reach our goal and probably surpass
Yeah.
that.
So this is just additional funds on top of the money that we were trying to raise to match the grant.
Yeah, well, then the grant can be, you look at this sponsorship packet, this is the fundraising plan right here, so you guys are just a portion of how to bring that up. So there's a lot of other means that are coming in to support this project. You're actually a fairly smaller portion, but your role is to get this out into the community and do those smaller things that help with the community level. So we'll take care of the grants, the big sponsorships and stuff like that. And there's something else I was gonna say.
Well, as far as the fundraising, I think, volleyball tournament would be a good idea for two reasons, because it's very cheap. It's all volunteers, you got nothing invested except the volleyball court. You probably have to put two there, but and a couple volleyballs. I mean, that's inexpensive to do. 2-on-2 probably wouldn't work. You probably have to do 4-on-4 or something like that, where you get more people involved, because 2-on-2 is tough. Father and son are not going to play. Well, if you got two athletic father and son do one, you got to, we ain't got a chance. They're not going to do it. I've seen it before, it's just not gonna happen, so that's a good idea, and you own the court, it doesn't cost you anything, you get a couple basketballs and do it, so.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking, if you still had the disc golf, you can do a disc golf tournament, why not utilize that? There's a lot of people in the area that love that, and there's no event going on for that. So I was thinking that as you were doing, I was like, okay, Crowdy Beach has got 3 resources right there, we can make it an all-day event, or a weekend event.
Right, and we want people to know what the rec department has to offer, and using that
Oh, I was
court up
wondering
there,
about that,
that
yeah.
basketball court's
Yeah, I
beautiful.
think there's still lots of opportunity, and the other thing is, even if we surpass the fundraising, don't forget that you all have purview over that recreation trust, so whether or not, this is just a very short-term project. There's phase 2 of Gardner Park, there's the recreation trust that you can put money in to help maintain what's at Gardner Park, or, put it into other things. So the money that you guys raise and the fundraisers that you do will not stop when this project is completed, it will just go to other things. That's kind of the long-term, part of the long-term.
I had put a sticky note in here with a suggestion that I got a while ago, but then it was like, it's not going on yet, and so now I think it's time to bring it up. You just started Play World.
Yeah.
And someone had suggested to me back at the farmer's market, I think it was, or somewhere, I don't remember where that came up, but, thinking about donations and how people can come in sometime, would it be appropriate to put a bucket, if we made a bucket out at Play World, or is that not?
I think Play World has their own bucket.
They have their own,
Yeah, we wouldn't want to double dip on that one, but I think once, anytime we have literature to put out, we certainly should use Play World as an avenue to get that out, because that does access a lot of parents. And like when the bricks and stuff come out, and the little rat cards.
Okay.
AJ, do you think Columbia Forest would do anything, the care committee?
My only concern with that is because, I guess it's not really a concern, but because the funds are have to go through an approval process, I just don't know if they would get to that.
Well, I don't mean to that extent, but you think they would do some kind of sponsorship in general for, it doesn't necessarily have to say for that event, or, just say, I know they have money where they can raise it.
Yep.
And they have it there, but, say the rec committee would like a $300 sponsor, you think that's something feasible that they
Yeah, I
would
think
consider?
So. Yep.
It's like, it doesn't hurt to ask them, I think we can get something, $250, $300, something like that,
Yeah, I know it would typically have to be tied to a specific event.
I really sent to them.
You already sent them?
Yeah, they were one of those first 20 ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know
Okay.
who that was addressed to?
Rita.
Okay.
I asked Wendy and she said, yeah, it's probably best.
Yep.
So you already had something that's all interesting, everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't wanna complicate the matters, so.
So before we're almost closing out here, but we had one more thing that we wanted to just talk about. It's because we are a sounding board to an advisory board to the city council. I just wanted to open up a discussion. I wanted to get some thoughts on the ATV things that are happening in the city. We're the rec committee, and so I don't know how much you guys have seen and heard about what's going on, but what are some of your thoughts? Are we feeling, are you feeling like we should be moving forward with, it's not our decision, but thoughts on that?
I've done extensive research and I can talk on it for a while, but I'll try to minimize it as long as possible.
Oh, we got 10 minutes left on.
Anyways, most people this is what I find, is a lot of people that are involved is very family oriented, middle-aged to older folks. You have some younger generation, but it's a small percent, like 5% of that. So there may be some idiots here and there. I mean, no matter what you do, you're always gonna have, a couple people that don't obey. So the biggest complaint is the noise decibels and all that, which is ridiculous because they're actually quieter than most vehicles. Like motorcycle trucks went by during the meeting, I heard those more than if an ATV went by. So the complaint that they're coming up with, and I'm not saying it in a bad way, but it's the older generation. They won't open their eyes. They're not looking at the bigger picture. Newport's staying the way it's staying because people are holding things back. They keep saying, oh, back in the glory days. Well, that was what, 25 years ago? Why isn't it moving forward? Because we're not opening our eyes. We're not looking at the opportunities. As part of the city of Newport, recreation, the city office, whatever, part of our jobs are to open our eyes and ears to possible proposals and opportunities to expand and progress in the right area. So I think this is an opportunity where we can open up the trails, not saying every street, but, make it feasible where local businesses could be supported, they get more business, in turn, they're gonna hire more people, they're gonna spend more money locally. I'm not a big fan of Frank Charity there, but he said some things that made a lot of sense, so why should we take the 1 year opportunity to say, yes, let's give it a shot? And for those who are being negative about it, it's a very small group. If you actually look around and listen, most people that are negative about it are the ones that don't like change. They want to keep things the same. They said the tranquility of their home. Okay, if you live in a city, there's no tranquility whatsoever. I mean, there's noises everywhere, kids, buses, everything. So, in the consideration of them too as well, I can see their point of somebody trying to bend the rules, but we have a police enforcement anyway. So the only con I can see is maybe having a little bit more police enforcement, which I think is to be minimum anyways. I don't think you're going to see a big ordeal about it. But I also think you're going to see an increase in business. You're also going to see an increase of family activity, which we need in this area. Let's face it, we have an epidemic with drugs and alcohol. We can take away from that and bring in more sales in the area, not just the restaurants but you're going to see Champlain and Waltz are going to get more business because people are not going over Colebrook or Berlin to buy these machines. Now they're going to buy them local. Hey, okay, now they're supporting us. Now we can support the local businesses. And that way, in shape or form too. And they have to obey by the laws like we do as motorists or anything. I think motorcycles are more dangerous than an ATV myself. I don't own an ATV. I've never been on one. So I'm not saying it because I like it. I've never done it. But I think it could bring a lot to this area. Snow machines were opened up to the last year, right? If I'm correct. And I haven't heard one single complaint. Everybody's been talking about it. They love it. So if they can do it why can't we do it with the ATVs? I think it's time for a change. I think we have to at least give it one opportunity to say yes or no. There's nothing to lose here. At the end of the day, if it doesn't work, guess what? We're not doing it. So that's what I gotta say.
Somebody sent out a message that if we knew anybody that lives in Island Pond. Who sent it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I reached out to some friends of mine that live in Island Pond, and her message back to me was that they don't own ATVs, but she said you have to be aware that they're going to be on the roads. She said Island Pond doesn't have the traffic that Newport has, and that it could cause additional accidents. She did, and that was her thought on it. Was that you just, especially where the General Dollar store is, that's one of the roads that they opened up in Island Pond. And she said that you just have to be aware that they're going to be on the roads. My brother owns the ATV. I don't, but my brother comes up to Morgan and does the trails up in this area, and he thought that it was a great idea and that everybody, that most people that he rides with, you know, they follow the state and local laws.
Right.
So, he was excited about it, about the possibility of us opening up the roads in Newport, because it was gonna just bring people into our, my personal opinion, it's gonna bring people into our community more, and that's what we're kinda, that's what our goal is.
Well, and I think it, other than bringing in business and revenue, I think it gives people other things to do because we don't have a lot to do around here. If anybody has gone for the first weekend in August, always, Gorham, New Hampshire has this huge ATV thing in their town. Of course, they do side-by-sides and ATVs all year in Gorham, but they do this huge thing because we always travel through to go to Maine, and it's the most amazing thing to see. Like every single vehicle on the road during that weekend is an ATV. And cars are all, you don't even see hardly any cars, and there's all families, and there's kids riding in the back, and I'm gonna invest in an ATV if they open it. I'm gonna do it. I don't do snow machine because it's too cold.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna get one, because
I'm
I think
honestly
it's a,
thinking about it if they do, because now I don't have to travel to buy a trailer, I can just leave my home and stay in the
It's
area I
just-
want to spend my money.
A lot of
right,
people
But
are
I-
talking about, I can't wait to ride.
I also took a
Right.
picture of it, I researched it a little
So-
bit too. Here's the trail system. You look in the Orleans County,
yeah.
there is,
Well, I live on
from
the
the outside of
line,
Newport to Stansted,
yeah,
right to the border, that's it. If you look at the other state, it goes from the tip of Vermont all the way through the bottom south side and further down, all the way across the east coast.
yeah.
Now, there's thousands of miles of trail. Why isn't there anything, look at, completely, it's nothing in the Orleans County on I-91
Yeah.
in that area.
Well, I
That's
live on the,
untapped.
I live on the border of Brownington, and they can ride ATVs, and so we already have to be aware of it. And the back end of our property up in the back is all state property, and ATVs run through there. So we already are watching for ATVs on the road, but I think it's gonna be great. I think it's a great family activity. I think that it brings in revenue. I think it beefs up Newport a bit and makes it more appealing, and
So I've heard nothing but support of the idea from this idea, but I don't know that I've heard from everyone. I mean, if you're against it, you feel free to say.
Yeah, I am.
I am.
Yeah. There's a huge statistical increase of motor vehicle accidents linked to towns that have allowed ATV use. And a lot of that is just because of the way that they're designed. They're not designed for pavement use. So I am very against it, actually. Especially because Newport is a very high traffic area.
I work with the, you know, the impulsive, rowdy population on a day-to-day basis, and we do have a small group of kids that in the wintertime ride their snow machines to school, and we've set a culture of safety around that. But, you know, I worry that you don't have to have a driver's license or kind of any training to ride a four-wheeler or a side-by-side. Like, they can just hop in their parents' machine and go. And so I worry that now they're gonna be allowed to be on the road, whipping out between cars, and being impulsive, and that's gonna be now their new mode of transportation to and from school, whether they're old enough to be doing that or not. So, you know, and as a city resident, I worry about that, you know, a little bit. So not that I'm like wholeheartedly against the idea of bringing them in, but I'm hyper focused on the population that I deal with day to day, and I worry about
That's a
the
very
hot
valid
rod.
point, and I think maybe that's something where the club can say, okay, if you're a member, it has to be 18 or above, and they're gonna have a
Well,
curfew
so
from what I
there is.
understand.
So-
there is, you have to
You have to have a
certain
driver's
age.
license.
Okay, you do.
You have to have a driver's license.
Okay, you
to
can't
do
ride
that.
on
I
the road
hadn't
without
heard
it.
that yet.
You do.
So.
Yeah, so I think that's part of it too, is a lot of, Scott did a really great job making this presentation, but not everyone got all the information, so I just want to clarify a couple things. First of all, yes, they have to have a driver's license just like you do if you're in a vehicle, so the police department can control that type of thing if they notice there's an age issue or whatever, and the good news is you can see right into them. But the other thing is they're only suggesting opening up certain roads in Newport, and it's for a 1-year trial, so that's a method that the club has taken with other communities and seems to have worked really well with them. You know, we're not the first community that's shown questions about you know, the safety of it and worries about that. That happens no matter who they approach. And so they're really big on pitching and that it's a one-year trial. We understand that we can lose our privilege at any point if things aren't going very well. So our members are very conscious of that. And the purpose too is not to be running the roads all the time, but to gain access to the trailheads. That was
Right.
and to get to the downtown. So have you ever been to Cajuns and you've
Right.
seen the ridiculous amounts of utility vehicles there? That's what they're trying to make happen for the east side, for Lagos, for the Main
Right.
Street businesses. So that's really the goal here. Vaughn brought up a great point about Waltz and all those other groups. I'm also very conscious of the outdoor recreation economy that the municipality and a lot of community planning is going to. So that's the idea of creating these types of activities to stimulate enterprise opportunities. So there's a very good chance that if there's opportunity here based on recreational activity, that more businesses could pop up. You could get a parts store that fills in one of these places on Main Street. So it's creating those types of enterprise opportunities is what I'm very conscious of. However, I do understand that it will be a learning curve. It would be a learning curve for just like the snowmobiles were and just like any of the other stuff. But I think Scott Janess is a really great asset to understand what it is they're proposing, and all of that stuff I think can come on the city's website too. So if you want to dig a little bit more into it, that might be helpful just to round out your thoughts. But there's some very valid points on this.
Well, and they also, Scott and that group have also spent a pretty significant amount of time being planful and bringing it to the committee at a time where they've been talking about it for a long time.
Yeah, they have
It's
a
not a
chance
new
to
idea
fix
for them.
it, yeah.
Yeah, they've been talking about it for a long time.
See, and I understand your safety concerns, but I think that's what I was trying to say to some people, because on my Facebook page, just some discussion about this, and people were sharing a lot of, you guys can go look on it too and see what they're saying, but a lot of people are for it, a few people are against it, it's because a lot of it's the noise, and a lot of it's, some people don't want to do it. But what I was trying to explain to them, and without saying it direct, was saying, I believe it's only going to be open to certain parts of the town. Obviously, you don't want to go on Second Street, Down Street, that's just going to cause conflict.
Right.
But it's just to open up the access points, so we can utilize it for the development of, extra business in the area. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do.
But even
So-
still, we're talking Main Street at that
But-
point, you know what I mean?
I agree, and what I think what Jess is trying to say too is Scott is, he runs the groups, the club, and the self-governed, they're gonna make sure that their members are gonna be held to high standards. Because it is a trial period for one, and two, we have to teach a generation the
Model
proper.
safety.
Right.
Exactly, so
Do
your
you have to
concerns,
be a member to ride?
yes.
Here?
To access the trails, you have to be a member.
You have to be a
Just like
member,
you- just like
registered,
you have to be a
and
VAS
So if you go to
member.
Gorham, New Hampshire, wherever,
You have
Colebrook,
to
you have to be a
have
member
Yes.
there.
Yeah,
you have to be a member of theirs, you
Yeah.
have to be member plus registered and insured.
right.
So these clubs do a pretty good job of holding their people accountable. So if something did occur and you saw somebody, you say, okay, one of your club members, and they're gonna be right on it. I
Right.
know these guys, because they wanna help keep the money here. So many people are, think about all the money we're losing going to New Hampshire. How many people are buying trailers, buying bigger trucks, moving and going? You see 3 or 4 machines on each one, and they're staying at hotels, going out to eat, going shopping. There's thousands of dollars per family. Now, times that by what, 100? We're talking, $20,000 to $100,000 in revenue in one weekend.
Well,
Why is
and I-
Newport getting that?
Well,
So
that's-
that's why
and that's-
we should at least look at it, that's what I think.
Yeah.
And I understand the concerns of safety and your safety, but I think if we do the right things, implement it the first year, and I think the Newport PD and the Sheriff Department both have machines, they're gonna help govern those trails too, so it's not gonna be a free-for-all, and then, I don't know what the curfew times are, but they're gonna be within reasonable times.
Right.
So I think, answer those questions, I think it might, if you had those answers, would it be more appeasing or appealing
I
to
think
you?
it
to
would
do
be helpful to maybe have club members doing some youth education too,
that's
like
a
great
partnering with a
idea.
high school
That's a
to
great
talk
idea.
about,
Right.
so if you're gonna be a rider and this is
Yeah.
gonna be your mode of transportation to and from school, here are the expectations.
That's
So,
something that we can help facilitate too.
Yeah.
They must have training courses or
Right.
whatever that they do.
Right.
Yeah, 'cause
Well,
I
and a
can
lot
open
of
that
the-
discussion with Scott and say, listen, this was brought up for attention, that's a valid point, that's a great idea.
Well, where are you
I
gonna
didn't
park
think
them all?
Soccer field turns into parking
Well,
field.
we actually talked about having a trailhead at Proudy Beach and at the recycling center there and giving a place for people to park their trailers and trucks and stuff. We from the point of view of the campground, telling people that are coming to already spend money at the campground that they can then bring their utility vehicles and their side-by-sides will draw in a whole different crowd just to
Yes.
use Proudy Beach and boost that
Right.
revenue, even just at the municipal level, forget the, the businesses and all that stuff, so.
Well, the other thing is most of your traveling is gonna be weekends.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get a lot of traffic during the week.
Yeah.
So it
We're
sounds
gonna
like
get-
there's kind of some mixed feelings in the room and,
Well, there should
but
be.
yeah, and
Saturdays
so
are gonna
the
be-
vote is happening on Monday,
Yeah.
Jess, so if anyone wants to come and
Well, we don't
see-
get to vote, so.
No, but come and see how that plays out.
Yeah, and I don't know if it, originally I thought it might be helpful to have a statement of some sort from the recreation committee, if you guys feel like that's appropriate, but if you're not, if you don't think that we're quite, in agreement, I just think as an advisory board, we've now got a year under our belt, or you guys have a year under your belt, it's okay for you to start suggesting on these types of things. If you don't feel like you're there yet, then we don't go there, but.
Well, I think we also didn't get the presentation from Scott.
Right.
So I feel like I'm not,
There's some information left to be.
right, I feel like I wouldn't be in a position to make a good statement without that information.
But on the other side of the coin, Marion's in the restaurant business, she understands,
Yeah.
you know, she sees, I've been, like I said, I was a cook, I trade, so I saw it myself. It brings in revenue in the wintertime, like snow machines, if you don't have those people, those restaurants don't survive. That's what they's gentlemen we're talking about here on Main Street. Think of how desolate Newport Main Street is in the wintertime with restaurants. I don't know how these guys survive. So I think it's,
Because people here like to drink.
well, but that's it, but still, you gotta open up the gates a little bit and try. That's what I'm thinking, so, I don't know, I think we should just put our hands up and see, what we think as a whole. And if one way or the other, just say this is how we feel as a committee, we'll go from there.
Well, the other thing to think about is,
I don't think I
don't think we
have
should.
enough information.
I don't know.
I didn't really
Yeah.
share it, I didn't see the presentation.
yeah. Well, and I think the thing is that there could always be compromise too. I mean, it could be that they decide for the 1 year period that there's select weekends that are posted that they travel. Well, that's what some of the other places do. They have weekends that are,
Yeah, but I don't know if the city's prepared to
I know,
do that, They got enough going on where they don't have to worry about this, that, what I mean? It's a good idea, but I just don't think it's feasible for them right now, especially
well, I was thinking
in the
like,
situation we're in.
So I'm getting enough sense from just the reaction that there's too many people here that feel like they don't have enough information for the committee to say, I support this or I don't support this. So, what can we do in the future about that? Maybe, if we, if there's something else we can advise the board on, be involved in those
Well, and we can,
presentations.
you never know what's gonna end up being.
Right.
are they recorded? Like, can we watch them as a group?
Yeah,
They're
I sent
recorded?
an email.
Yeah, I watched both of
That
them.
had the.
Oh, yeah, you did.
interviews.
Yeah, I worked late.
Just a couple days ago.
That's right.
Can we also just recommend to our community, our fellow community people, open-mindedness around this? Like,
Right,
the fact that this has turned into this divisive
yeah.
left and right thing is quite
Oh, yeah,
frankly
enough of that.
not fun to be a part of. And so I think both sides have very valid points, and again, in my opinion, and worth consideration. And it's not a slam dunk on either side of it for me.
Yeah.
So I think if everybody has respect when you kind of hear what the concerns are, and then put those all together to make an informed decision, it's like the best
Yeah.
way to approach it as opposed to
Yeah.
social media name calling.
Oh, yeah,
It's-
yeah. No, nobody ever wants to.
No, so
Well,
if
and
we
there's
can-
always worries about increased traffic, because you already have enough.
Bottleneck a lot right
Traffic.
here.
So could we make a statement then, what I'm hearing Mike say is then maybe the rec committee doesn't say they're for or against it, but we say, whatever happens, we hope that there's a respectful, I just lost my words.
Yeah, I see where
It's
you're
too
going,
late.
yeah.
Do you know what I
Give us some
mean?
thought over the
We
next
could just say
couple
we
days.
remain neutral for the
And,
time.
and we're,
Well, right, and like,
I didn't
can
solicit
we,
you guys, I just thought that.
can we engage in like a branch of facilitation,
No, I
like
think we should
seeking
say
out
that.
education for populations that need support and, be like a fielding agent.
Or maybe even offering that if the decision is to maybe step up and help facilitate some of that training or whatever, just offer that, depending, either way it lands, if that's something the rec committee may be interested in helping with that, I don't know. So, okay.
it's getting late,
Yeah.
and we can continue this conversation over the next couple of days via our email. We'd like to look at a calendar and set our next date.
Isn't it the third Thursday of the month?
It's typically the third Thursday, but that would be November 21st. At 6. Hey, I might have